The supermarket lights buzzed overhead as Jocelyn reached for the cereal box on the top shelf, stretching on her toes while balancing a shopping basket in her other hand. Her twins were somewhere in the candy aisle, probably plotting which sweets to beg for later, and she needed to grab the essentials before they returned, with puppy eyes and rehearsed arguments. Need help with that? The voice froze her mid-reach, deep, accented, familiar in a way that sent ice through her veins. She turned slowly, and there he was, Pyun-sung Hwang, standing 3 feet away in casual clothes that probably cost more than her monthly salary, looking at her like he'd seen a ghost. Jocelyn. He breathed her name like a prayer and a curse combined. She grabbed the cereal box, clutching it against her chest like a shield. Mr. or Hwang. It's been 4 years. His eyes searched her face, cataloging every change. The shorter hair, the tired lines around her eyes, the way she stood differently now. You disappeared without a word. No resignation letter, no forwarding address, nothing. I had my reasons. She moved to walk past him, but he stepped into her path, not threatening, just desperate maybe. Your reasons? His voice cracked slightly. I looked for you everywhere. I hired investigators, called every contact I had. Do you know what that year was like? Not knowing if you were alive or, Mommy! 2 voices shouted in unison. Jocelyn's heart stopped. The twins came running around the corner, arms full of candy they definitely weren't getting, identical faces beaming with excitement. They skidded to a halt when they saw Pyun-sung, their expressions shifting to curiosity. Who's that? Liliana asked, tilting her head. Pyun-sung stared at the children. His face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, calculation, shock, and then something that looked like devastation. The twins had his eyes, exactly his eyes, that distinctive amber brown that looked gold in certain light. Liliana even had the same stubborn jaw. How old are they? He whispered. That's none of your business. Jocelyn grabbed both children's hands. Put the candy back. We're leaving. But Mom, Miller started. Now. Her voice left no room for argument. Pyun-sung caught her wrist gently as she tried to pass. Don't run again. Please. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. She pulled free, ushering the twins ahead of her. They're mine. Aren't they? He called after her, his voice echoing through the aisle. Several shoppers turned to stare. Jocelyn, answer me. Are they mine? She didn't respond, just kept walking, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Behind her, she heard rapid footsteps, and then Pyun-sung was blocking the exit, his expression wild with emotions she couldn't name. Real quick, what's your vibe right now? Anxious? Angry? Intrigued? Drop an emoji that matches your energy. Subscribe because stories that make you feel something are rare, and I'm serving them consistently. Comment which character you're most curious about, then keep watching. The next scene will either confirm your instincts or completely destroy them. 4 years, he said again. You kept them from me for 4 years. You don't understand. Then make me understand. His voice rose. Then he seemed to catch himself, lowering it to something urgent and pleading. I have a right to know if I'm their father. Liliana tugged Jocelyn's sleeve. Mommy, who is he? Why is he crying? Jocelyn looked at Pyun-sung and realized her daughter was right. Tears streaked down his face, silent and devastating. The man who ran an empire with an iron fist, who'd built a business empire from nothing, who'd never shown weakness in the 3 years she worked for him, was crying in a public supermarket. Your father, she heard herself say, the words tearing out of her throat. He's your father. The shopping basket fell from her hands, groceries scattering across the floor. Sung dropped to his knees right there, saw not caring about the spilled milk or the broken eggs or the crowd forming around them. He looked at the twins with such raw longing it hurt to witness. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry you grew up without me. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Miller stepped forward cautiously. "Why didn't you know? Don't dads usually know about their kids? Your mother had very good reasons for keeping you safe." Sung's eyes never left Jocelyn's face. Reasons I'm starting to understand now. Jocelyn felt the walls closing in. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. Not here. Not like this. Not with her children watching their father break down in the middle of a grocery store. She'd imagined this confrontation 1,000 times, planned what she'd say, how she'd stay strong. Some but none of her scenarios included this vulnerability, this genuine grief. "We should talk somewhere private," she finally managed. "Not here." Sung stood slowly, wiping his face with the back of his hand. "My car's outside. I'll follow you home." "No." The word came out sharp. "There's a cafe 3 blocks from here. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. He nodded, understanding the boundary she was setting. "I'll wait however long you need." As Jocelyn shepherded the twins out of the store, leaving the mess behind, Liliana whispered, "Is he really our dad? The one you never talk about?" "Yes, baby." Jocelyn's voice shook. "He really is." "Does this mean we're rich now?" Miller asked with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. "Because Tyler at school says his dad's rich and they have 3 PlayStations." Despite everything, Jocelyn almost laughed. "Money doesn't make a family, sweetheart. Love does." "But does he love us?" Liliana's question cut straight to the core. Jocelyn looked back through the store window to where Sung still stood, staring after them with an expression of such profound loss it made her chest ache. I think he already does." The cafe was small and quiet when they arrived. Sung was already there, sitting at a corner table with 3 hot chocolates waiting, 1 for each twin. Somehow he'd remembered that detail from years ago, how she'd mentioned wanting kids and planning to introduce them to hot chocolate the Korean way, with tiny marshmallows and cinnamon. "You remembered," she said softly, sliding into the booth. "I remembered everything about you." His eyes held hers. Every conversation, every smile, every time you tried to hide how much you hated dealing with the business side of things because you had the softest heart of anyone I'd ever met. "Then you should understand why I left." Jocelyn watched the twins attack their hot chocolate with enthusiasm. "Your world isn't safe for children. The things you did, the people you dealt with. I'm out." The words stopped her cold. "I've been out for 3 years. The moment you disappeared, I started untangling myself from everything dangerous. It took 18 months, but I'm clean now. Legitimate businesses only. I couldn't live in that world knowing somewhere you might be in it too, possibly in danger because of me." Jocelyn stared at him. "You're lying." "I'm not." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through what looked like business documents. Real estate development, tech investments, a chain of restaurants. Everything legal, everything clean. I have documentation if you need proof. Why? She couldn't wrap her mind around it. You loved that life. The power, the control, the respect. I loved you more. The simple statement hung in the air between them. And when you left, I realized that power meant nothing if it cost me the one person who saw me as just Sung. Not the boss, not the fixer, just me. Miller looked up from his hot chocolate, mustache of foam on his upper lip. "Are you good now? Because Mom says we don't talk to bad people." Sung's smile was sad and genuine. "I'm trying very hard to be good. For you, for your sister, for your mom. Trying isn't the same as being, Liliana pointed out with devastating 7-year-old logic. You're right. Pyun-sung nodded seriously. But sometimes, trying is where being good starts. I made mistakes. Big ones. But I'm working every day to be better than I was yesterday. Jocelyn felt something crack inside her chest. This vulnerability, this honesty. It was what she'd fallen for years ago. Those rare moments when he'd let his guard down in the office after everyone else left, when they'd talk about dreams and fears over lukewarm coffee at midnight. I was pregnant when I found out about the Johannesburg deal, she said quietly. The one where you had to convince someone to sell. Pyun-sung's face went pale. The methods I used, I knew what you were capable of. I'd seen hints, ignored them because I was in love and stupid. She glanced at the twins, making sure they were distracted. But then I was carrying 2 lives inside me and I couldn't raise children in that world. I couldn't let them grow up thinking that was normal. So you ran. His voice held no accusation, only understanding. You protected them the only way you knew how. I'm still protecting them. Jocelyn met his eyes. Whatever this is, whatever happens next, they come first. Always. I wouldn't expect anything less. Pyun-sung reached across the table slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed hers. Let me prove I've changed. Let me be their father. Let me earn back what I lost. Earn back. Jocelyn's laugh was bitter. Pyun-sung, you can't earn back 4 years. You missed their first steps, their first words, their first day of school. And you missed Miller breaking his arm falling off the monkey bars and Liliana's nightmares after she watched a scary movie at her friend's house. You missed everything. The pain in his eyes was genuine. I know. And I'll regret that every day for the rest of my life. But I'm here now. Doesn't that count for something? Before Jocelyn could answer, Liliana suddenly asked, Do we have grandparents? On your side? Pyun-sung's expression shifted to something complicated. You do. My parents live in Incheon. They'd love to meet you. Are they nice? Miller wanted to know. They're very nice. My mother makes the best kimchi pancakes you've ever tasted, and my father tells terrible jokes that everyone laughs at anyway. Like dad jokes? Liliana giggled. The worst dad jokes imaginable. Pyun-sung's smile was real now, warm and reaching his eyes. He's been practicing for grandchildren. He's going to lose his mind when he finds out about you two. Jocelyn felt control slipping through her fingers. This was moving too fast. The twins were already charmed, already imagining a life with this man they'd just met. But maybe that was okay. Maybe she'd been holding on too tight, protecting them from something that no longer existed. One dinner, she heard herself say. You can take us to dinner, tomorrow night. Somewhere child-friendly. Tomorrow. Pyun-sung looked like she'd handed him the world. Really? Don't make me regret it. Jocelyn's voice was firm. And if I see even a hint of your old life, if anyone remotely dangerous comes near my children. Our children, he corrected gently. And I promise, you won't see anything but a man trying desperately to be worthy of a second chance. The restaurant Pyun-sung chose wasn't fancy, just a family place with coloring sheets and a kid's menu that came with tiny toys. He'd texted her the address at midnight, with an apology for the late hour and a confession that he'd been too nervous to sleep. The text made her smile despite her reservations. Now, watching him try to fold a napkin origami crane while Miller gave instructions, Jocelyn felt her heart do something dangerous. He was patient when Liliana spilled her juice, quick to assure her it was okay. Accidents happen. He'd spilled coffee on himself just that morning, actually. He listened when Miller explained his elaborate theory about dinosaurs and space travel, nodding seriously like it was the most important presentation he'd ever heard. Mom never lets us have dessert before dinner, Liliana informed him solemnly. Pyun-sung glanced at Jocelyn with a question in his eyes. She nodded slightly, and he grinned. Then I guess we better order dinner fast, so we can get to dessert, right? The twins cheered. Jocelyn shook her head but couldn't suppress her smile. You're going to spoil them. That's what fathers do, isn't it? His expression turned serious. I have 7 years of birthdays and holidays to make up for. I'm planning to spoil them thoroughly. They're only 4, actually. Not 7. 4 years I missed. 3 years they've been conscious enough to remember things. His voice dropped. That's 7 years of memories I don't have. Dinner arrived, and the conversation flowed easier than Jocelyn expected. Pyun-sung asked the twins about school, their friends, what their favorite things. He told them about growing up in Korea, about learning to swim in the ocean, about his first time trying to cook and nearly burning down his apartment. Were you scared? Miller asked, when the fire started. Terrified, Pyun-sung admitted. But my best friend showed up with a fire extinguisher and saved the day. Then we ordered pizza and laughed about it until we cried. Where's your best friend now? Liliana wanted to know. Something flickered across Pyun-sung's face. We lost touch. When I changed my life, I had to leave some people behind. People who couldn't understand why I wanted different things. Jocelyn understood the unspoken message. He'd lost friendships, connections, his entire world when he walked away from that life. All for a woman who disappeared and children he hadn't known existed. So after dinner, Pyun-sung produced 2 wrapped boxes from seemingly nowhere. I know I said no gifts, but I couldn't help myself. Miller tore into his, revealing a complex robot building kit. This is so cool. Can we build it together? If your mom says it's okay, I'd love that. Pyun-sung looked at Jocelyn hopefully. Please, Mom. Miller's eyes went wide. Please? She sighed. Fine. But homework comes first. Liliana opened hers more carefully, gasping when she saw the art set inside. Watercolors, brushes, canvases, everything a budding artist could want. You knew I like painting? Your mom used to talk about wanting to take art classes someday. Pyun-sung's smile was soft. I figured maybe you got her creative side. She's amazing, Jocelyn confirmed. Oh, her teacher says she has real talent. Like her mother. Pyun-sung's eyes met Jocelyn's across the table. I remember the sketches you doodled during boring meetings. You never thought anyone noticed, but I always did. The moment stretched between them, intimate and charged with memories. Then Liliana asked, Are you going to kiss Mom? Because in movies, when people look at each other like that, they usually kiss. Jocelyn choked on her water. Pyun-sung turned red, stammering something incoherent. The twins giggled, pleased with themselves for causing such chaos. How about we get that dessert now? Pyun-sung managed, finally. Walking back to Jocelyn's apartment later, the twins running ahead on the sidewalk, Pyun-sung kept a respectful distance between them. They're incredible. Ma, you did an amazing job raising them alone. I wasn't completely alone. Jocelyn watched her children chase each other around a streetlight. My neighbor Helena helped a lot. She's like a grandmother to them. I'd like to meet her, to thank her for being there when I couldn't be. Pyun-sung, Jocelyn stopped walking. What are we doing here? Really? He turned to face her, hands shoved in his pockets like he didn't trust himself not to reach for her. I'm trying to be part of their lives. Part of your life, if you'll let me. As what? Their father? My friend? Something more? The question hung heavy between them. Whatever you're comfortable with. His voice was careful. I know I hurt you by being who I was back then. I know trust isn't something I can demand or even ask for. It's something I have to earn over time. And if I never trust you again? She had to ask. If I let you be their father but nothing more? Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. Then I'll take whatever pieces of your lives you're willing to share. The twins deserve to know their father, and I promise I'll be the best father I can be, regardless of where we stand. You mean that, Jocelyn realized, seeing the truth in his eyes. You'd really settle for just being their father. I'd rather have part of you than none of you. Pyun-sung's smile was bittersweet. I learned that lesson the hard way when you disappeared. I'd take friendship over nothing, co-parenting over silence, anything over losing you all again. Jocelyn felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. This man, this changed man standing before her, he was everything she'd hoped he could become back when she first fell in love with him. But wanting something and trusting it were different things entirely. Tomorrow's Saturday, she said slowly. The twins have soccer practice at 9. You could come watch if you want. I'll be there. The hope in his voice made her chest ache. Should I bring anything? Snacks? Water? I don't know the protocol for youth soccer. Just bring yourself. She smiled despite herself. And maybe earplugs. The other parents can get pretty intense. He laughed, and the sound brought back memories of late nights in the office when he'd let his guard down, when he'd been just Pyun-sung instead of the feared boss everyone else knew. I've faced down crime lords and corrupt politicians. I think I can handle some competitive soccer parents. Don't say I didn't warn you, Jocelyn called to the twins. Time to head inside, you two. School tomorrow. Can Pyun-sung come up? Liliana asked. I want to show him my paintings. It's late, baby, Jocelyn started to say, but Pyun-sung interrupted gently. How about I come see them next time? That way you can pick out your very best ones to show me. Liliana considered this, then nodded. Okay, but you have to promise to come back. I promise. Pyun-sung crouched down to their eye level. And I always keep my promises. Always. Even pinky promises? Miller held out his pinky finger solemnly. Especially pinky promises. Pyun-sung linked pinkies with first Miller, then Liliana. Those are the most sacred promises of all. Watching them, Jocelyn felt tears prick her eyes. This should have been their life all along. Family dinners, silly conversations, a father who showed up and kept promises. She'd robbed them all of 4 years they could never get back. Robbed her children of a father who clearly adored them already. Robbed Pyun-sung of watching his babies grow. Hey, Pyun-sung stood, noticing her expression. What's wrong? I'm sorry, she whispered. For running. For keeping them from you. I thought I was protecting everyone, but maybe I was just protecting myself from getting hurt again. Don't. He shook his head. Don't apologize for doing what you thought was right. You had every reason not to trust me back then. I gave you those reasons with every choice I made. He paused, his voice dropping lower. But I'm different now. And I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that to you. The twins had run ahead to the apartment building entrance, arguing about who could press the elevator button. Jocelyn and Pyun-sung stood alone on the quiet street, the space between them charged with unspoken feelings. I loved you, Jocelyn said suddenly. Back then, before everything. I was completely in love with you. It wasn't just attraction or some workplace crush. I loved you in a way that terrified me, because I knew your world would never allow for something real between us. Pyun-sung's breath caught. Past tense? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer, because she didn't know anymore. These feelings she'd buried for 4 years were clawing their way back to the surface, complicated and messy and impossible to ignore. Good night, I'm Pyun-sung. She turned toward the building. Jocelyn, wait. He caught her hand. I loved you too. Past tense, present tense, future tense, all of it. That's why I changed everything. You were the only person who ever made me want to be better than I was." "Then why didn't you tell me?" The question burst out of her. "All those nights working late, all those conversations. Why didn't you ever say anything?" "Because I was a coward." His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. "I was so convinced I'd ruin you, corrupt you somehow by pulling you into my world. I thought staying silent was protecting you. Turns out I was just protecting myself from the risk of you rejecting me." "I wouldn't have rejected you," Jocelyn admitted. "I was waiting for you to make a move. I'm hoping every day that you'd see me as more than just your assistant." "We wasted so much time." Pyeon-sung's voice cracked. "We did." She squeezed his hand once, then let go. "But maybe we're getting a second chance now, if we don't mess it up." "I won't mess it up." The conviction in his voice was absolute. "Not again. Not when I finally have a real shot at the family I always dreamed about." Inside her apartment later, after tucking the twins into bed and answering their million questions about Pyeon-sung, Jocelyn sat alone in the dark living room. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Thank you for today, for letting me meet them, for giving me a chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I promise I'll work every day to earn your trust again. Sleep well." She stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "Don't make me regret this." His response came immediately. "I won't. On my life, on everything I am now and want to be, I won't let you down again." Jocelyn fell asleep with her phone clutched in her hand, dreams filled with memories of how they used to be, and dangerous hope for what they might become. Soccer practice turned into a revelation. Pyeon-sung showed up 20 minutes early, with a cooler full of juice boxes and orange slices, wearing jeans and a hoodie that made him look years younger. The other parents immediately noticed him. Hard not to when he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. But he was friendly and approachable, asking about everyone's kids and genuinely listening to the answers. Jocelyn watched him from the bleachers, marveling at this version of Pyeon-sung she'd never seen before. The man who'd commanded a criminal empire with cold efficiency was currently learning about the intricacies of under-8 soccer rules from a chatty mom named Thandy, who ran the team's snack rotation. "That's your ex?" Helena appeared beside her, settling onto the bench with a knowing look. Jocelyn's neighbor missed nothing. "He's not my ex," Jocelyn protested. "We were never officially together." "Girl, please," Helena snorted. "The way that man looks at you. That's not a 'we were never together' look. That's a 'you're the only woman I've ever loved and I'll do anything to prove it' look. You're reading too much into it." "Am I, though?" Helena gestured toward the field, where Pyeon-sung was now kicking a ball around with Miller during warm-ups, his face lit up with pure joy. "When's the last time you saw a man that happy just playing with his kid? He's already in love with them, probably fell in love the second he saw them." Jocelyn couldn't argue with that. The way Pyeon-sung interacted with the twins was natural, like something in him had clicked into place the moment he learned they existed. He was patient with their endless questions, attentive to their needs, protective without being overbearing. After practice, Pyeon-sung treated everyone to ice cream at the shop down the street, somehow ending up responsible for 7 kids instead of just his 2. He juggled orders, helped reach high shelves, mediated a dispute over who got the last strawberry cone, and still managed to make it look easy. "You're a natural," Jocelyn observed, watching him clean chocolate off Liliana's face. I had good practice," he said cryptically. "My cousins all have kids. I've been their emergency babysitter more times than I can count." "Really?" She tried to picture him surrounded by children, couldn't quite reconcile it with the stern boss she'd known. "Really? My cousin Moon has triplets. After a day with them, 2 kids feels like a vacation." He grinned. "Plus, kids are honest. They don't care who you were or what you did before. They just care if you show up and pay attention. Is that why you're so good with them? Because they don't know your history? Partly. Pyun-sung's expression turned serious. But mostly because they're half you, and that makes them the most important people in my world. The moment was interrupted by Miller tugging on Pyun-sung's sleeve. Can we go to the park? Please. And you promised we could play on the swings. Did I promise that? Pyun-sung pretended to think hard. You said maybe next time, Liliana chimed in. And Mom says maybe means yes if you ask nice enough. Jocelyn laughed. I did not say that. I said maybe means ask me again when I've had coffee. So we should get Mom coffee? Miller looked far too pleased with his logic. Pyun-sung met Jocelyn's eyes with barely suppressed amusement. I think your kids might be geniuses. Or just really good at manipulation. She stood, gathering their trash. Fine, the park. But only for an hour. Then we need to get home for dinner. The park was crowded with weekend families, but they found a spot near the swings. Pyun-sung pushed the twins, taking turns so neither felt left out, while Jocelyn sat on a nearby bench and pretended to read her phone. Really, when she was watching him, cataloging all these new facets of his personality she'd never seen before. You're staring, Helena commented, appearing again like a mind-reading phantom. I thought you went home, Jocelyn startled, and missed this beautiful disaster unfolding. Never. Helena settled beside her. So, when are you going to admit you're still in love with him? I'm not, honey. You look at that man like he hung the moon and personally delivered it to your doorstep wrapped in a bow. And he looks at you like you're the only thing keeping him breathing. Helena patted her hand. Whatever happened before, whatever made you run, maybe it's time to consider forgiving him. What if he hurts them? Jocelyn's voice dropped to a whisper. What if he decides this life is too boring, too domestic, and he goes back to his old ways? I can't let my children get attached to someone who might disappear. Look at him. Helena nodded toward where Pyun-sung was now helping Liliana across the monkey bars, his full attention on making sure she didn't fall. That man isn't going anywhere. That's not a man playing at being a father. That's a man who just found out he has something worth living for. Maybe Helena was right. Maybe Jocelyn was holding on to fear instead of seeing what was right in front of her. A changed man, trying desperately to build something real with the family he'd never known he wanted. I'm scared, she admitted finally. Good. Being scared means you care. Helena squeezed her shoulder. Just don't let fear keep you from something beautiful. That evening, Pyun-sung helped carry the twins upstairs when they fell asleep in the car on the way home. Now Jocelyn unlocked the door quietly, watching as he navigated her tiny apartment like he'd been doing it for years. Tucking first Liliana, then Miller into their beds with a gentleness that made her throat tight. You're good at this, she whispered in the doorway. I've been practicing in my head for 4 years. He straightened Miller's blanket. Every night I'd imagine what it would be like if you'd stayed, if we'd built a life together. Now it's real, and I'm terrified of messing it up. Pyun-sung. She didn't know what to say, how to articulate the tangled mess of emotions inside her. He turned to face her in the dim hallway light. I know this is fast. I know you need time and space, and probably 1,000 reassurances that I'm not going to hurt you again. I'm prepared to be patient. I'm prepared to earn your trust one day at a time for however long it takes. And if it takes years, then I'll spend years proving myself. His voice was steady, certain. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. I meant it. They stood in the narrow hallway, close enough that Jocelyn could smell his cologne, could see the sincerity in his eyes. Part of her wanted to kiss him, to fall back into what they'd almost had before. But the sensible part, the mother part, held her back. "I need more time," she said finally. "Take all the time you need." Pyun-sung stepped back, giving her space. "I'll be here." He left after saying goodbye, and Jocelyn closed the door behind him, leaning against it with her eyes shut. This was getting complicated, messy, and dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with his old life, and everything to do with her guarded heart. Her phone buzzed. "Made it home. Thank you for today. Every moment with them, with you. It's a gift I never thought I'd get. Sweet dreams. D." She typed back before she could overthink it. "They're asking when they can see you again. Apparently once a day isn't enough. Just them asking? Or do you want to see me too?" Jocelyn stared at the message, her heart racing. Honesty felt dangerous, but maybe it was time to be brave, maybe both. His response made her smile despite herself. "Tomorrow then. I'll cook dinner for everyone. I promise my cooking skills have improved since the apartment fire incident. You don't have to. I want to. Please. Let me do this. Okay. 6 o'clock. Don't burn down my kitchen. So no promises, but I'll try my best." The next day, Pyun-sung arrived at 5 with bags of groceries and a determination that was both endearing and slightly alarming. He'd researched kid-friendly recipes, triple-checked for allergies, and brought backup ingredients in case of disaster. "You really didn't have to go to all this trouble," Jocelyn said, watching him unpack what looked like enough food for an army. "I wanted to." He started chopping vegetables with surprising skill. "Besides, I've been taking cooking classes. Turns out knowing how to feed yourself is an important life skill." "Cooking classes?" Jocelyn couldn't help but smile. The Pyun-sung I knew lived on takeout and black coffee. The Pyun-sung you knew was an idiot who didn't know how to take care of himself or anyone else. He glanced at her. I'm trying to be better." The twins burst into the kitchen, demanding to help. Pyun-sung set them up with simple tasks: washing lettuce, arranging plates, stirring the sauce. He made it fun, turning cooking into a game where everyone had an important job. Jocelyn watched from the doorway, her heart doing that dangerous thing again, where it forgot why it was supposed to be guarded. This domestic scene, this feeling of family, it was everything she'd dreamed about during those lonely nights when she'd been pregnant and terrified, wondering if she'd made the right choice by running. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. The pasta was slightly overcooked, the garlic bread a little burnt around the edges, but nobody cared. They laughed and talked, and for a few hours, Jocelyn let herself imagine this was their normal, and that this strange little family unit could actually work. After the twins were in bed, she and Pyun-sung cleaned up together in comfortable silence. He washed, she dried, and the rhythm felt natural, practiced, like they'd been doing this dance for years instead of days. "Can I ask you something?" Pyun-sung broke the silence eventually. "Depends on the question." "Why Liliana and Miller? The names. They're beautiful, but I'm curious how you chose them." Jocelyn smiled, running the towel over a plate. "Liliana means gift in Hebrew. Miller means beauty in Arabic. They were both gifts, and they were both beautiful. The best things that ever happened to me, even when I was terrified and alone." "You weren't supposed to be alone." His voice was rough with emotion. "You were supposed to have me there, supporting you, helping you, while being the partner you deserved." "We can't change the past." She set down the plate, turning to face him. "We can only work with what we have now." "And what do we have now?" He turned too, wiping his hands on a towel. "Honestly, Jocelyn, where do you see this going?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me wants to throw caution away and see where this leads. Part of me is terrified you'll hurt us again, not because you're cruel, but because you're still figuring out who you are outside of who you were. That's fair. He nodded slowly. I'm still figuring it out. But I know one thing, absolutely. I want to be here. I want to be their father. I want to be someone you can rely on. I want to build something real with you if you'll let me. Even knowing it might not work out, she had to ask. Even knowing I might never fully trust you again. Even knowing all of that. His eyes held hers. Because the alternative, going back to a life without you three in it, that's not living, Jocelyn. That's just existing. She moved without thinking, crossing the small space between them to wrap her arms around his waist, pressing her face against his chest. He froze for a second. Then his arms came around her, holding her like she was precious and breakable. I'm still scared, she mumbled against his shirt. Me too. His voice rumbled through his chest. Terrified, actually. But maybe that means we're doing something worth being scared about. They stood like that for a long moment, just holding each other in the quiet kitchen, and Jocelyn let herself believe, just for that moment, that maybe second chances were real. 2 weeks passed in a blur of soccer practices, family dinners, and tentative steps towards something that looked suspiciously like dating. Pyun-sung showed up consistently, never missed a promised visit, called when he said he would. He brought thoughtful gifts, nothing expensive, just small things that showed he paid attention. A book Jocelyn mentioned wanting to read, colored pencils in Liliana's favorite shade of purple, a science kit for Miller because he'd expressed interest in volcanoes during one dinner conversation. But old habits died hard, and Jocelyn couldn't shake the feeling that something would eventually shatter this fragile piece they'd built. The feeling proved prophetic on a Tuesday afternoon when she got a call from an unknown number. Miss Jocelyn, this is Principal Morgan from Riverside Elementary. I'm calling because there's been an incident with the twins. Her heart stopped. What kind of incident? Are they hurt? They're fine physically, but there's a situation we need to discuss in person. Can you come to the school immediately? Jocelyn was already grabbing her keys, mind racing through terrible possibilities. She called Pyun-sung without thinking, her hands shaking too badly to drive safely alone. What's wrong? He picked up on the first ring, immediately alert to the panic in her voice. The school called. Something happened with the twins. I don't know what, but can you meet me there? I'm already on my way. She heard him moving, keys jangling. Text me the address. I'll be there in 15 minutes. He beat her there somehow, was waiting in the parking lot when she arrived. His presence steadied her enough to walk into the building without completely falling apart. Principal Morgan ushered them into her office, where the twins sat looking miserable and defiant in equal measure. A well-dressed woman perched on the edge of a chair, her expression cold and calculating. Thank you for coming, the principal began. This is Mrs. Chang. Her son Ryan is in class with your children. What happened? Jocelyn demanded, moving to the twins. Mrs. Chang spoke before the principal could. Your daughter assaulted my son. She pushed him off the swing set, and he could have been seriously injured. Liliana wouldn't do that, Pyun-sung said immediately, his voice carrying an edge that reminded Jocelyn of the man he used to be. Not without a reason. Are you calling my son a liar? Mrs. Chang's eyes narrowed. I'm saying there's always two sides to every story. Pyun-sung crouched in front of Liliana. Tell us what happened, sweetheart. Ryan said mean things, Liliana whispered, tears streaming down her face. About me and Miller. He said we were mistakes because we don't have a dad. Jocelyn's breath caught. Pyun-sung's jaw tightened dangerously. So you pushed him? The principal asked gently. I told him he was wrong. I said we do have a dad, that he just found us recently. Liliana wiped her nose. Ryan laughed and said nobody would want kids like us. So Miller pushed him off the swing to make him stop being mean. Miller pushed him, not Liliana. Mrs. Chang's expression shifted to confusion. I told the teacher it was me, Liliana said quietly. Well, because Miller already got in trouble last month, and I didn't want him to get in more trouble. The principal pulled out a report. According to the playground monitor, she didn't actually see the push, just Ryan on the ground, and both twins nearby. Liliana confessed immediately, but now I'm wondering if we have the full story. My son wouldn't lie about being bullied, Mrs. Chang insisted, but her voice wavered slightly. Actually, a small voice piped up from the doorway. A girl Jocelyn recognized from the twins' class stood there nervously. Ryan was being really mean. He always picks on Liliana and Miller. He said their mom was poor, and their dad probably left because he didn't want them. Miller got angry and pushed him, but only after Ryan shoved Liliana first. Sophia, you were supposed to be in the library, Principal Morgan said, but her tone was thoughtful rather than angry. I know, but it's not fair. Liliana was protecting Miller, and Miller was protecting Liliana, and Ryan was the mean one. He's always mean. Sophia crossed her arms. My mom says people who are mean to others are just sad inside and need help. Mrs. Chang's face had gone pale. Ryan has been acting out lately. His father and I are going through a separation. I didn't realize he was taking it out on other children. The tension in the room shifted. Pyun Sung stood slowly, his hand finding Miller's shoulder. Kids process stress in different ways. Maybe Ryan needs someone to talk to about what he's going through at home. Perhaps we all need to have a conversation about bullying and proper conflict resolution, Principal Morgan suggested diplomatically. I think suspensions aren't necessary here, but family counseling might benefit everyone involved. Mrs. Chang nodded stiffly, gathering her things. I'll talk to Ryan and his father. We need to address this properly. She paused at the door. I apologize for jumping to conclusions. Divorce is difficult. I'm not handling things as well as I should. After she left, the principal looked at the twins seriously. Pushing someone is never the answer, even when they're being unkind. But I understand you were trying to protect each other. Next time, you need to tell a teacher immediately when someone says hurtful things. Yes, ma'am, they chorused. Outside, Jocelyn finally let herself breathe. The twins ran ahead to the car, energy restored, now that the scary adult conversation was over. That was intense, she managed. They're good kids. Pyun Sung watched them play. They look out for each other. That's everything. Miller pushed a kid off a swing, Pyun Sung. That's not good. No, but his reasons were good. He was defending his sister from a bully. Pyun Sung turned to face her. Does that make it right? No, but it makes it understandable. And kids like Ryan lashing out because their world is falling apart. That hits close to home. Because of your parents' divorce? Because that was me once. His voice was quiet, angry at the world, and taking it out on people who didn't deserve it, unable to process all the complicated feelings inside. If someone had stepped in earlier, offered help instead of punishment, maybe I wouldn't have spent years making terrible choices. Jocelyn saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the child he'd been underneath the man he'd become. You turned out okay in the end. Did I? Or am I still figuring out how to be okay? He smiled sadly. Some days I'm not sure there's a difference. That night, after tucking the twins in with extra hugs and reassurances that they weren't in trouble, Jocelyn found Pyun Sung sitting on her small balcony, staring at the city lights. Penny for your thoughts? She handed him a mug of tea. I'm thinking about parallel universes. He accepted the tea gratefully. In some other timeline, you never ran. You stayed. I changed faster, and we raised the twins together from the start. Do you think we were happy in that timeline? Maybe, Jocelyn settled beside him. Or maybe we fought constantly because neither of us was ready for that life. Maybe I resented you for not changing fast enough, and you resented me for trying to change you at all. That's depressingly realistic. Or maybe, she continued softly, maybe this timeline is exactly what we needed. Maybe we both had to go through everything separately so we could appreciate what we have now. You think we have something? His eyes found hers in the darkness. Beyond co-parenting? I think. She took a breath for courage. I think I'm not as angry anymore. I think watching you with the twins, seeing how hard you're trying, no, it's healing something inside me I didn't realize was broken. Healing isn't the same as forgiving. No, but maybe it's the start. She set down her tea, turning to face him fully. I'm not ready to jump back into anything romantic. I'm not ready to trust you with my heart again. But I'm ready to stop holding you at arm's length, to stop waiting for you to mess up. That's more than I hoped for. His smile was genuine. More than I deserve, honestly. Stop that. She poked his shoulder. Stop acting like you're not worthy. You made mistakes, but you owned them. You changed your entire life without even knowing if you'd ever see me again. That takes courage. Real courage. I was motivated by love. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. When you love someone, really love them, changing becomes easy because staying the same means losing them. Is it really that simple? Not simple. Easy. He caught her hand. Simple suggests it didn't cost me anything. It cost me everything. My old life, my reputation, friendships, business connections. But it was easy to make those choices because the alternative was unthinkable. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the city breathe below them. Jocelyn felt something shift inside her, some barrier crumbling. The twins want to meet your parents, she said eventually. Pyun Sung's grip tightened. Really? You'd be okay with that? I think it's time. They should know their grandparents. She paused. And I should probably meet the people who raised you. For better or worse. They're going to love you. His voice was thick with emotion. And they're going to absolutely spoil the twins rotten. That's what grandparents are for, right? My mother's going to cry. Fair warning. She's been asking when I'm going to settle down and give her grandchildren for years. Finding out she already has two is going to send her over the moon. When should we tell them? How about this weekend? We could fly out Saturday morning, stay through Sunday. He hesitated. Unless that's too much too fast. It's terrifying, Jocelyn admitted. But in a good way, maybe. Like jumping off a high dive. Scary, but also exciting. I'll catch you, Pyun Sung promised. If you jump, I swear I'll be there to catch you. They planned the trip over the next few days. Pyun Sung handled the flights and hotel, insisting on separate rooms to give Jocelyn space. He called his parents to warn them they were coming, but didn't explain why, wanting to surprise them with the twins. Friday night, while packing, Liliana asked, "Are we going to like Korea?" "I think so, baby. It's going to be different. But different can be good." "Will our grandparents speak English?" Miller worried. "Some," Pyun Sung assured him from the doorway. Jocelyn had given him a key that morning, a gesture that felt monumental. "And I'll translate anything you don't understand. Plus, love is a universal language, right?" "That's cheesy," Liliana giggled. "But true." He grinned. "Besides, my mom makes these sweet pancakes that are so good, you won't care what language she's speaking." The flight was long, but surprisingly smooth. Pyun Sung had booked first-class tickets, which Jocelyn protested, but he waved off, saying the twins deserved to be comfortable. They watched movies, colored, slept, and arrived in Incheon in the early morning, looking rumpled but excited. Pyun Sung's parents lived in a traditional house with a garden that Liliana immediately fell in love with. His mother answered the door, took one look at Pyun-sung's nervous face and the children hiding behind him, and burst into rapid Korean that even Jocelyn could tell was emotional. "Mom, meet Liliana and Miller." Pyun-sung gently urged the twins forward. "Your grandchildren." His mother dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face, reaching for the children with shaking hands. She switched to heavily accented English. "My babies, my grandbabies. You're real. We're real," Liliana confirmed, always the braver twin. "Are you going to hug us or just cry?" That broke the tension. Pyun-sung's mother laughed through her tears, pulling both children into a fierce embrace. His father appeared, gruff and skeptical, until he saw his wife crying. Then his eyes landed on the twins, and his expression crumbled into wonder. "They have your eyes," he said to Pyun-sung in Korean. "And Mom's stubborn streak," Pyun-sung replied, in the same language, smiling. "We should probably go inside," Jocelyn suggested gently. The neighbors were starting to stare at the emotional scene on the doorstep. Inside, over tea and those promised sweet pancakes, the story came out. How Jocelyn and Pyun-sung met, why she ran, how they found each other again. His parents listened intently, asking few questions, just absorbing the reality of suddenly having grandchildren. "For you should have told us," Pyun-sung's mother said finally. "When you changed your life, when you were struggling, you should have said, why?" "I didn't want you to be disappointed if I never found them again," Pyun-sung admitted quietly. "Disappointed? In you trying to be a better man?" His father shook his head. "Never. We're proud of you, son. Prouder than you know." The weekend passed in a blur of family bonding. The twins learned to make kimchi, got covered in flour helping their grandmother bake, listened to their grandfather's terrible jokes, just like Pyun-sung promised. Jocelyn watched it all, feeling her last reservations dissolve. This was real. This family, this connection, this second chance. It was all genuinely real. Sunday evening, after the twins fell asleep exhausted from playing in the garden, Pyun-sung found Jocelyn on the back porch. "Thank you," he said simply, "for giving them this, for giving me this. They're your family too." She leaned against his shoulder without thinking about it. "They deserve to know where they come from. And you?" His arm came around her tentatively. "Do you feel like you belong here?" "Starting to," she admitted. "Your parents are wonderful. They welcomed us without judgment, without making me feel guilty for keeping the twins hidden. That means everything. They understand complicated choices." Pyun-sung's voice was thoughtful. "They made plenty of their own when I was growing up. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has all the answers. We just do the best we can with what we know at the time." "When did you become so wise?" Jocelyn tilted her head to look up at him. Probably around the time I realized wisdom and intelligence aren't the same thing." He smiled down at her. "I was smart enough to build an empire, but not wise enough to know what actually mattered. Took losing you to figure that out. Well, you found us again." She reached up, cupping his face. "Against all odds, you found us. Best thing that ever happened to me." His eyes searched hers. "Second best, actually. The best was meeting you in the first place, even if it took me years to appreciate what I had." Jocelyn kissed him, not planning it, not overthinking it, just letting the moment carry her forward. His surprise lasted only a second before he responded, gentle and careful, like she might disappear if he held on too tight. She whispered, "I'm still scared." "Me too." He rested his forehead against hers. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe being scared means we know how precious this is." "Maybe," she agreed. "Or maybe we're both just really bad at being brave. He laughed softly. Probably that too. They flew home Monday morning, the twins chattering non-stop about their grandparents and when they could visit again. Pyun-sung promised they'd go back soon, maybe for the twins' birthday in a few months. Speaking of birthdays, he said carefully as they waited for their luggage. I know we've only been doing this co-parenting thing for a few weeks, but I'd really like to be involved in planning their party, if that's okay with you. I think they'd love that. Jocelyn smiled. Fair warning, though. Birthday parties with 7-year-olds are chaos. I handled crime syndicates. I can handle birthday party chaos. Famous last words, she teased. But he was true to his word, diving into party planning with the same intensity he'd once applied to business deals. He researched themes, compared venues, created spreadsheets of guest lists and activities. It was endearing and slightly ridiculous and completely Pyun-sung. The night before the party, Jocelyn found him stress baking in her kitchen at midnight. Can't sleep? She watched him measure flour with scientific precision. What if something goes wrong? What if the kids don't have fun? What if I mess this up like I've messed up so many other important moments? His voice was tight with anxiety. Hey, she stilled his hands gently. It's going to be great. And even if something goes wrong, the twins won't care because you're there. That's all that matters to them, or that you show up. I should have been showing up all along. The old guilt crept into his voice. Stop. She turned him to face her. We agreed to move forward, remember? That means leaving the past in the past. Easier said than done. Most important things are. She kissed his cheek. Now put down the measuring cup and come to bed. His eyes widened. Come to sleep, she clarified quickly, feeling her face heat. Just sleep. In separate rooms. I just meant, you should get some rest before tomorrow. Right. Sleep. Separate rooms. He set down the measuring cup, looking adorably flustered. That's probably a good idea. Pyun-sung? She called as he headed toward the guest room. Yeah? Thank you. For caring this much. For trying so hard to get everything perfect. She smiled softly. You're a really good dad. His expression transformed, joy and gratitude, and something deeper shining through. That's the best thing anyone's ever said to me. The party the next day was indeed chaotic, but perfect in its chaos. Pyun-sung orchestrated games and managed sugar-high children with surprising competence. When the piñata broke prematurely, he improvised a treasure hunt that had the kids even more excited. When Liliana got overwhelmed by too many people, he quietly pulled her aside for a few minutes of calm before she was ready to rejoin the fun. Watching him, Jocelyn felt the last pieces of her heart unlock. This man, this changed, dedicated, loving man. He was everything she'd hoped he could become and more. You're staring again. Helena appeared with cake. I know. Jocelyn didn't look away. I think I'm falling in love with him all over again. Honey, I don't think you ever stopped. Helena squeezed her shoulder. You just needed time to trust it was real. Is it real, though? Or am I seeing what I want to see? Look at him with those kids and tell me that's not real. Helena pointed to where Pyun-sung was now being used as a jungle gym by both twins and 3 of their friends. That man is building something permanent here. The only question is whether you're brave enough to build it with him. That night, after the guests left and the twins crashed from sugar and excitement, Jocelyn found Pyun-sung cleaning up wrapping paper. You don't have to do that. You've done enough today. I want to. He continued gathering trash. Besides, this is what family does, right? Shows up, helps out, sticks around for the messy parts. Pyun-sung, we need to talk. He froze, and she realized how ominous that sounded. That's never a good sentence. It's not bad, I promise. She sat on the couch, patting the space beside her. I've been thinking about us, about what we're doing, about where this is going. And his voice was carefully neutral, but she could see the fear in his eyes. And I think I'm ready to try, really try, not just co-parenting, but everything. Her heart raced. If you still want that. He laughed, slightly hysterical. Jocelyn, I've wanted that since the day you walked out of my life. I've wanted it every single day for 4 years. Then why do you look terrified? Because I'm scared I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. He took her hands. Or worse, I'll mess it up somehow and lose you all again. You won't lose us. She squeezed his hands. Not unless you go back to who you were before, and I don't think that's going to happen. It's not. I promise you, it's not. Then stop being scared and kiss me, she smiled. For real this time, not a tentative peck, not a careful test. Kiss me like you mean it. He didn't need to be told twice. His lips found hers with 4 years of longing behind them, and Jocelyn let herself fall, finally trusting that he'd catch her. Behind them, unnoticed in the hallway, 2 small voices whispered excitedly. Does this mean Pyun-sung's our dad for real now? Miller asked. I think it means he's been our dad all along, Liliana replied wisely. We just had to wait for Mom to figure it out. Grown-ups are so slow sometimes. Tell me about it. 3 months later, life had settled into a comfortable routine that still felt surreal sometimes. Pyun-sung had unofficially moved in, spending most nights on the couch because Jocelyn's apartment only had 2 bedrooms, and neither of them was ready to explain to the twins why they'd be sharing a room. It was innocent and sweet, and sometimes frustrating, but mostly it was perfect. We need a bigger place, Pyun-sung announced one Saturday morning over pancakes. We? Jocelyn raised an eyebrow, though her heart did that flip thing it always did when he used plural pronouns. Yes, we. He gestured around the tiny kitchen where they could barely move without bumping into each other. The twins need their own rooms now that they're getting older. You need a proper workspace for your graphic design stuff. And I don't need much, actually, but a couch that doesn't give me back problems would be nice. Pyun-sung, we can't afford. I can. He held up a hand before she could protest. Before you get angry, hear me out. I'm not trying to control anything or throw money around to solve problems. I'm just saying, I have the resources, and you're raising my children in a space that's too small. Let me help. It's not about the money. Jocelyn set down her coffee carefully. It's about independence. I've been taking care of us alone for 4 years. Accepting help feels like giving up something. Or like gaining something. He reached across the table. A partner who wants to share the burden. You don't have to do everything alone anymore, Jocelyn. That's what being together means. The twins wandered in, still in pajamas, yawning and gravitating toward the pancakes like sleepy magnets. Are we moving? Liliana asked, because apparently they had no concept of private conversations. Maybe, Pyun-sung said carefully, glancing at Jocelyn. Would you want to? If we found a place with a bigger room for you to paint in? And a yard, Miller added hopefully. Tyler has a yard, and he says it's cool for playing. Possibly a yard. Pyun-sung smiled. What do you think, Mom? Should we at least look? Jocelyn felt outnumbered, but also touched. He wasn't demanding, wasn't pushing, just offering options. We can look. That doesn't mean we're definitely moving. They spent the following weeks touring houses. Most were wrong. Too big, or too sterile, too far from the twins' school. But then they found it. A modest 3-bedroom house with a backyard, a sunroom perfect for Jocelyn's design work, and a kitchen big enough for Pyun-sung's increasingly elaborate cooking experiments. It's perfect, Liliana breathed, running through the empty rooms. It has a tree, Miller shouted from the backyard. A real climbing tree. Pyun-sung looked at Jocelyn with hope and questions in his eyes. What do you think? I think... She walked through the living room, imagining their life here. Family movie nights, homework at the kitchen table, birthday parties in the backyard. I think it feels like home. Yeah, his smile was brilliant. Yeah, she kissed him quickly. But I'm paying half the mortgage. Jocelyn, half, she insisted. We're partners, right? That means equal contribution. Fine. But I'm paying for all the furniture because the stuff we have now is falling apart. Deal. They moved in a month later, with help from friends and neighbors who'd become family. Helena cried, claiming she wasn't sad but proud, like watching her daughter move out. Pyun-sung's parents flew in to help decorate, his mother taking charge of the twins' rooms with an enthusiasm that was both endearing and overwhelming. The first night in the new house, after everyone left and the twins were asleep in their new rooms, Jocelyn and Pyun-sung collapsed on the new couch, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. We did it, she said, slightly dazed. We did. He pulled her against his side. We're really doing this, building a life together. Terrifying. So right? The best kind of terrifying. He kissed her temple. The kind where you're scared, but also incredibly grateful. Life continued forward. The twins started third grade in their new school, making friends quickly. Jocelyn's graphic design business took off after she landed a major client, finally able to afford the software she'd been wanting. Pyun-sung's legitimate businesses thrived, though he was careful to keep work balanced with family time. But nothing stays perfect forever. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Jocelyn was working from home when her phone rang, an unknown number she almost didn't answer. Is this Jocelyn? A woman's voice, unfamiliar and urgent. Yes, who is this? My name is Sarah Chen. I'm an investigative journalist, and I'm working on a story about organized crime in East Africa. Your name came up in connection with Pyun-sung Hwang. Jocelyn's blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just need to verify some information about his past activities. Sarah's voice softened. I understand you have children with him. I imagine you'd want to know if there are any unresolved issues from his previous life that could affect your family's safety. Pyun-sung left that life years ago. He's legitimate now. I'm sure he believes that. Sarah paused significantly. But there are people who disagree. People who lost money or power when he pulled out of certain operations. People who hold grudges. What are you saying? I'm saying you should ask him about Park June and the money that went missing from their last deal together. Sarah's tone was gentle but firm. I'm not trying to destroy your family, Jocelyn. I'm trying to write the truth. But you deserve to know the whole truth before my article publishes next month. The call ended, leaving Jocelyn staring at her phone with mounting dread. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to trust that Pyun-sung had been honest about everything. But the mother part, the protective part, needed answers. She called him immediately. We need to talk, tonight after the twins are asleep. What's wrong? Instant alertness in his voice. Is everyone okay? Everyone's fine, but I got a call from a journalist asking about your past. Silence, then a heavy exhale. I'll be home early. We'll talk about everything, I promise. That evening felt endless. Dinner was normal on the surface, but Jocelyn could barely eat, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. The twins noticed something was off, but Pyun-sung distracted them with a card game until bedtime. Finally, they were alone in the bedroom, door closed, the weight of unspoken words pressing down. Tell me about Park June, Jocelyn said without preamble. Pyun-sung's face went carefully blank. Who told you that name? A journalist named Sarah Chen. She's writing an article about your past, and she implied there are unresolved issues, missing money, angry people. Jocelyn's voice shook. Please tell me she's wrong. Please tell me you don't have some crime lord coming after you for revenge. It's not like that. Pyun Sung ran his hands through his hair. June and I were partners once, yeah. When I left, I took money from a joint account. Money that was legally mine, but he disagreed with the distribution. He threatened legal action but never followed through because it would have exposed his own illegal activities. So there's no threat? No danger? Not physical danger, no. Pyun Sung met her eyes. But he's been trying to damage my reputation in business circles, spreading rumors that I'm untrustworthy. It's hurt some deals, but nothing catastrophic. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry about something I had under control. Under control? Jocelyn's voice rose. A journalist is about to publish an article potentially exposing our family to scrutiny, and you thought you had it under control? I've been working with lawyers to suppress the story based on inaccuracies and old information that's no longer relevant. He reached for her, but she stepped back. Jocelyn, I swear I was handling it. By hiding it from me? It's by letting me think everything was perfect when there's apparently some media storm brewing. Tears stung her eyes. I trusted you. I trusted that you were being honest about everything. I was honest about the important stuff. His voice was desperate now. About leaving that life. About changing. About wanting to be with you and the twins. This June thing. It's just noise. Background drama that I didn't want infecting our life together. That's not your call to make, Jocelyn shouted, then immediately lowered her voice, aware of the twins sleeping down the hall. We're supposed to be partners, Pyun Sung. That means you don't get to decide what I should or shouldn't worry about. You don't get to hide things just because you think you're protecting me. You're right. He sank onto the bed, defeat written across his features. Doctor, you're absolutely right. I was falling into old patterns, thinking I had to control everything, manage every problem alone. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough this time. Jocelyn wrapped her arms around herself. I need to think. I need space to figure out if this is something we can work through or if it's a sign of bigger problems. Please don't leave. The raw fear in his voice nearly broke her resolve. I'll tell you everything. Answer any question. Give you complete access to my business dealings. Just please don't take the twins and disappear again. I can't lose you all a second time. I'm not leaving. She said it firmly, as much for herself as for him. But I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. We'll talk more tomorrow when I'm less angry and you're less defensive. She left him sitting there, closing the door gently behind her. In the guest room, she curled up on the bed and finally let herself cry. Tears of frustration and fear and betrayal, but also tears of grief for the perfect bubble that had just burst. The next morning, Pyun Sung was up before everyone, making elaborate breakfast like it could somehow fix everything. The twins sensed the tension, but didn't comment, eating their waffles quietly. After dropping them at school, Jocelyn and Pyun Sung returned to the house for the conversation they'd both been dreading. I called Sarah Chen this morning, Pyun Sung started. Told her I'd give her an exclusive interview about leaving organized crime if she'd agree to certain terms about protecting my family's privacy. She agreed. Just like that? Jocelyn was skeptical. She's actually interested in the redemption angle more than the crime angle. She wants to write about people who successfully leave that life. He showed her the email thread. I'm doing the interview next week. If you want to be there or read it before it publishes, you can. Why didn't you offer to do this before? Pride, maybe. Fear, definitely. He set down his phone. I've spent years running from my past, trying to pretend it never happened. The thought of putting it all out there, having people judge me for who I was, it terrified me. But you're right. Hiding it, managing it in secret, that's still using the same controlling tactics I used before. I need to be better than that. Jocelyn processed this slowly. What about June? Is he really going to just let this go? I'm meeting with him next week, with lawyers present. Everything official. Pyun-sung's jaw tightened. I'm going to offer him a settlement. More money than he's technically owed, but enough to close this chapter permanently. No more grudges, no more threats. You're paying him off. I'm buying peace. The distinction was important to him. For us, for the twins. So we can move forward without his shadow hanging over everything. It made sense, though it grated that someone like June would profit from causing problems. But maybe that was the cost of truly leaving the past behind, paying whatever price necessary to protect the future. Okay, Jocelyn said finally. But going forward, no more secrets. I don't care how small or manageable you think something is. If it involves your past or could potentially affect our family, you tell me. What, immediately? I promise. Relief flooded his features. Complete transparency from now on. And I need to be less controlling about accepting help. The admission was hard, but necessary. You were right about the house thing. I was holding on to independence like a shield, when what I really needed was to trust that accepting help doesn't make me weak. It makes you human. He reached for her hand cautiously. She let him take it. Nobody should have to do everything alone. That's why we have each other. They sat in silence for a moment, hands linked, both acknowledging the work ahead. Are we okay? Pyun-sung asked quietly. We're getting there. Jocelyn squeezed his hand. This is what being together actually looks like, right? Not just the good stuff, but working through the hard stuff, too. I'd rather just have the good stuff, honestly. Wouldn't we all? She almost smiled. But relationships aren't fairy tales. They're work and communication, and choosing each other even when it's difficult. I choose you, he said with absolute certainty. I'll always choose you, even when I'm an idiot who makes stupid decisions about what to hide and what to share. And I choose you. The words felt important, like a vow, idiocy and all. The interview with Sarah Chen happened the following week. Pyun-sung was honest, in a way that made Jocelyn's chest ache, talking about the person he'd been, the choices that haunted him, the long road to becoming someone better. Sarah was fair but thorough, asking hard questions that Pyun-sung answered without flinching. The article published a month later, creating a small media storm that Jocelyn weathered by staying off social media and focusing on family. Some of Pyun-sung's business contacts distanced themselves. Others reached out with support or their own stories of reinvention. The twins heard whispers at school, but Pyun-sung and Jocelyn sat them down, explaining in age-appropriate terms that everyone makes mistakes, and what matters is learning and growing. The meeting with June was tense, but professional. Pyun-sung handed over a check that made Jocelyn wince at the amount. June signed papers agreeing to cease all harassment and negative commentary. It wasn't justice, maybe, but it was closure. Feel lighter? Jocelyn asked afterwards as they walked to the car. Exponentially. Pyun-sung took a deep breath. Like I've been carrying weights for years and finally put them down. Good. She laced her fingers through his. Because we have a soccer game to get to, and Miller will never forgive us if we're late. Life gradually returned to normal, though normal now included occasional reporters asking for follow-up interviews, and business acquaintances who treated Pyun-sung with new wariness. But inside their home, things were better than ever. The near crisis had forced conversations they'd been avoiding, created space for deeper honesty and trust. 6 months after the article published, on a perfectly ordinary Thursday evening, Pyun-sung proposed. Not with fanfare or elaborate planning, just the two of them doing dishes after the twins went to bed, falling into their comfortable routine. "Marry me," he said suddenly. Jocelyn almost dropped the plate she was drying. What? Marry me. He turned to face her fully, sudsy hands and all. I know it's not romantic. I know I don't have a ring, but I was standing here thinking about how much I love this. The mundane daily stuff, the routine, the normalcy. And I realized I want to keep doing dishes with you for the rest of my life. That's possibly the least romantic proposal ever. She was crying and laughing simultaneously. I can do better. I can plan something elaborate with flowers and music and a choreographed. No. She kissed him, tasting soap and forever. This is perfect. You're perfect. And yes, I'll marry you. Really? He looked stunned, like he hadn't expected her to say yes. Really? Though we're probably going to traumatize the twins by telling them they're getting a stepdad who's actually their bio-dad. That conversation's going to be confusing. We'll figure it out. He pulled her close. We always do. They told the twins the next morning over breakfast. The confusion Jocelyn predicted absolutely happened. Wait, so Pyun-sung's our dad, but now he's going to be our stepdad? Miller frowned. That doesn't make sense. No, he'll still be your dad, Jocelyn tried to explain. But he'll also be my husband. So he's dad now instead of just dad? Liliana tilted her head. Exactly. Pyun-sung looked relieved. Dad. I like that. Can we still call you just Pyun-sung sometimes? Miller asked. You can call me whatever you want as long as it's not late for dinner. The dad joke landed with groans from everyone. Too soon for dad jokes? It's never too soon for dad jokes, Liliana declared. That's like dad law. The wedding itself was small, just close friends and family in their backyard. Pyun-sung's parents flew in, emotional and proud. Helena cried through the entire ceremony. The twins served as both flower girl and ring bearer, taking their jobs incredibly seriously, until Miller tripped over his untied shoe and started laughing, which set off a chain reaction of giggles that infected the entire gathering. I love you, Pyun-sung whispered during their first dance. The makeshift dance floor just their living room pushed clear of furniture. I love you too. Jocelyn rested her head on his shoulder. Past tense, present tense, future tense. All of it. That's my line, he protested laughingly. Our line now. That's what marriage means. Got to right? What's mine is yours. Including terrible romantic declarations, apparently. They swayed together, surrounded by everyone they loved, and Jocelyn felt complete in a way she'd never imagined possible 4 years ago, when she'd run scared into the unknown. Sometimes the best journeys were the ones that brought you full circle, back to the people you were always meant to find. Mom, Dad, the cake's here, the twins shouted from the kitchen. Duty calls, Pyun-sung said wryly. The glamorous life of married parents. Jocelyn took his hand. Ready? Always. He kissed her once more. As long as it's with you, I'm ready for anything. They walked toward their children and their future, hand in hand, both finally whole. Thanks for choosing this story. Hope you loved watching these two find their way back to each other as much as I loved telling it. Leave a comment about your favorite moment, or just let me know what you thought overall.